So today we are going to start talking by the inner rules, about the inner rules. And what are those inner rules that we may not even know about it? And why? Because many times our inner rules are programmed unconsciously. And let me explain to you what they are. So how are they programmed? Well, they are programmed by, a part of it is from your genetics. You came in with a certain set of genetics that also start your personality, but your inner rules are going to be created by your family, by your environment, by your school, by your friends, by relationships. Now, also social media. Now, because social media is so important with the generation, why even my generation and the Generation X and the iGen, it's all about social media now. We are on social media hours in a day. So a lot of your inner rules are going to also be created and influenced by social media platforms. Now, some of your inner rules are going to be positive. For example, inner rule could be somebody who learned a behavior of being successful, somebody who learned the behavior to always do its best. That is a lot of time very positive inner rule, which means that they are driver, they are ambitious, they believe in themselves. Maybe they learn it in sport. Maybe they learn it with their family. Maybe they learn it with a coach, a school. So all of those could be positive inner rules. However, there's also many negative inner rules. And those inner rules the negative inner rules will be connected to self-sabotage or negative self-talk. Let me give you an example. If you are in your career and you get skipped on a promotion, so you went for the job, you thought you were qualified for the job, you thought you did everything that met the guidelines, and out of the blue, they skipped you. No heads up, no nothing, you got skipped. So now, the person who has negative self-rule could be that you're going to say to yourself, I'm so stupid, I'll never do anything. I can't handle it. I'll go into depression. I will never be successful. There's another negative self-talk from the same type of an example, which is, it's not my fault. It's them. I can't believe they did this to me. So it's a deflection away from you. Either one of those inner rules will trigger a negative self-talk or a negative discussion that is all about self-sabotage. And why? Because it stops you from truly having the ability to look at yourself and take accountability. Maybe you are right that you were passed over and it was unfair, or maybe there's something about your personality, your behavior, that needs to be changed. So you understand that beating yourself up or deflecting that it is not my fault, which is the motto, will not promote you to really understand what needs to be done in order to get the next promotion. So obviously in this speech, we are talking about the negative inner rule. Let me talk to you about the core identity model. The core identity model basically has three bubbles, if you want to call it. One bubble is what, Another bubble is who. And the third bubble is how, which is related to feelings. Most people who have negative inner rule will define the who they are, with what, meaning what they do. So for example, if I achieve in my career, if I become a leader, if I can achieve all of those accomplishments, then I am successful and I am good and I have great self-esteem. Is that true? Is that truly what is your core identity? Or is that an inner rule that is telling you your identity in order to be good, in order to have a social status, in order for other people to respect you or value you, you must achieve the following. Now, those people who connect who they are with what they do, or what they drive, or what house they have, obviously miss to be connected to how they feel, to their own feelings, to their own happiness, to truly who they are. Does that make sense? Because think about it. If I'm all about what I do in life, if I don't do what I am setting up to do in order to be who I need to be, again, not who I am truly, but who I need to be, which was maybe identified by my parents, by my school, by my coach, by my friends. What happened the day you don't meet that expectation? Everything is going to calm down, be destroyed, because suddenly you didn't meet the expectation that you wanted to meet in order to feel valued, respected, smart, whatever it is. And in life, do we always meet our goals? Do we always meet our expectations? So now, this group of people who are who they are from what they do are going to be doing two things. They're going to become overachiever. They're going to be, a ball in the China cabinet. Oh, China store, I think that is. I screw up all of my say. They're going to be judgmental, because anybody that doesn't have that same overdrive and determination is not good enough. Or the other category of people who will say, well, since I need to be who I am by what I accomplish, and because I'm so scared to fail, because if I fail, I am nothing, then I'm not going to try. I'm going to live in fear. I would rather not risk than fail, which means my worst fear will come reality, meaning people will reject me, people will not respect me, I will not be the great husband, the great wife, etc. So you can see that as long as you identify who you are with what you do, eventually you are going to do self-sabotage. For the overdrive one, the overly ambitious, the judgmental, eventually you will get somewhere in your life where you will not be happy. Because your emotion, which you have ignored for so long, will catch up with you. That depression will catch up with you. That anxiety will catch up with you. That's what I call, and you hear about this, the middle life crisis. Those people who suddenly realize I'm not happy. I did everything. I accomplished about the house, about the car. I have the spouse. I have the kids. We live in a great neighborhood. They go to private school. Why am I doing this, all of this for? Where's my life going? Yes, that is because they have been so disconnected to truly figure out who they truly are, what is truly their identity. The other group that is also identifying who they are with what they do, and were too afraid of taking risk just in fear of being or failing, which would mean, well, who they are is not much according to them, will also completely do self-sabotage because they will never meet their full potential. They will never meet truly what they were able to do if they would have believed truly in themselves and truly understand who they are at the core. Will this group of people also go into depression and happiness? Of course. Both groups may actually fail in relationships. One is judgmental. The other one doesn't think it's good enough, so might as well we don't take risk even in the relationship. Or if they do get in a relationship, they're going to, again, not be who they truly are because they will be afraid of losing that spouse. So hopefully I'm making you understand that what you do is not about who you are at the core. That is how you can handle failure, because failure does not identify you. Failure is an opportunity to learn a lesson so you can get better, but it is not a part of your identity. Somebody who has a bad grade doesn't mean they are stupid. It doesn't mean they will never do anything. It only means you encounter a failure, like everybody in this world. This is what I always told my kids. And in case some of you don't know, I'm a single mother with 2 kids in college. And this is one thing I always told them. If you never encounter failure, you have never tried anything. When you have never tried anything, you stayed within your safety zone. When you stayed within your safety zone, you self-sabotage your life, your success, your happiness. Therefore, if you think of it this way, failure is something you cannot avoid. It's something that you will encounter because that is a part of taking risk. That is a part of succeeding, including with a relationship. So many people come to me and they say, hey, do you think I should keep on dating this person because I don't want to waste my time? Where's the risk in that? Life is not so black and white. Life is about how we can learn about ourselves. So who are you at the core is going to be who you truly are, and then your abilities will help you to achieve what you want to achieve. However, if you have too many negative inner rules, you will restrict yourself from achieving whatever you want to achieve. And I'm talking about career, relationships, happiness, whatever you want to achieve. So, how do you know of your inner rules? Well, this is where you really have to look at yourself. Think about your inner rules. How do I process information? How did you handle Something in your job, maybe. How did you handle stress? How did you handle when you didn't get a promotion? How did you handle when you got a promotion? When you went to a relationship or not being in a relationship? All of that is governed by some inner rules. So look at the one that you remember situation to be positive, and how did you view that situation? How did you view yourself? And look at other situations, especially pattern, that maybe you did not achieve what you wanted to achieve, or you had a breakup, or you didn't meet the career that you wanted to do, whatever it is. And then look at that and say, what inner rule govern my behavior and the way I thought about myself? Write it down and figure out, how do I want to change it? Do I want to beat myself every time I don't make the correct grade, or I miss a project, or whatever it is, or whenever my boss starts yelling at me? Do I want to just beat myself, go into a cave, all anxious or all angry? Hopefully the answer is no. So then, what do you want to be for that new inner rule? How do you want to change that? Who are you at the core? Do you truly want to be that individual? If the answer is no, then start thinking on how you can reprogram that inner rule. Take it one step at a time. I always tell people, use a journal. Now, with this time of craziness, many of my clients live in constant fear, okay? I get texts of asking me, oh my God, we are shutting down. Oh my God, second wave is coming. Oh my God, I hope my family is going to be okay. Let's remember something. Go back to reality. Look how many people die in car accident. That's all the time. Look how many drunk drivers drive on the same freeway, same roads that you are driving. Look how many people die from the seasonal flu. When my son gets the flu, he got it twice. He ended up both time in emergency room. And he still goes out. Because you have to make a choice. You can only control what you can control, or you can buy into the hype of the news and the social media. Now, I'm not saying COVID-19 doesn't exist. And I'm not saying it cannot be transmitted. Of course it can. The death rate is very low, if you think about it. It is highly contagious. You can still wear a mask. You can still wash your hands. You can still not touch your face, your eyes, or your mouth. So there are things you can control to avoid the virus. Let me ask you something. Do you take the same precaution for the seasonal flu? Do you know how many people actually die of the seasonal flu? But yet we act like it doesn't exist. So do you actually fear for your family? Do you wear masks? Do you wash your hands? Do you make sure you don't hug anybody? Do you make sure you do social distancing? Think about that. What is it about the news, about social media that makes you so scared? What inner rules is governing that behavior? Did you research it on your own? Did you actually go to cdc.gov or the COVID organization? Did you look at the statistics? Or do you just look at the news and social media and react from it because, hey, if it's on Facebook or if it's on the news, it must be true. Remember that the news sell drama, and they sell by causing fear. Nobody would want to look at the news if the news was about, hey, headline, beautiful day today. So I hope you're understanding this. And again, I cover a lot about that fear and what is causing a lot of the fear in the last Zoom session. So I'm not going to be covering more into that. But let me talk to you about the kids and about this what and who connected to how. For those of you who are parents, or those of you who will become parents, remember that what is vital as parents is for parents to teach kids how to become great at problem solving on their own. The more you are trying to shelter the kids, or the more you are trying to run to them every time there's a drama, or you entertaining the drama, you really are creating a codependency. You're creating a fear in the kids that if I don't have mom or dad to run to, so they can make me feel good and tell me that I'm right, then I'm afraid. I panic. That's why so many kids have a problem when there's only one parent, or if parents are divorced and that parent finds somebody else, because they're afraid of being replaced. Is mom or dad always going to be there? So if you don't teach your kids to become great at problem solving and be independent by taking risk, they will not be able to handle crisis. So now think back when it comes to you. Are you having a problem handling this crisis? Everything that is going on. Do you feel sad for really no reason? Do you feel afraid? Do you feel everything is coming down? So I want you to go back and think, was I a kid that was taught of solving problems on my own? Did my parents or my coaches or my schools or my friend value or validated that when I solve problems on my own? Or did my parents or my coach or my friends ridiculed me when I was faced with a problem? Or did they buy into it? Did they buy in the drama because they are also dramatic, or they also have fears? Remember, parents, we are definitely not perfect. So we also have our crap that we are dealing with. So we're passing all that on to the kids. So now I'm going to end this topic and then move on to C-PTSD versus PTSD by saying to you one more thing, that if anything you are remembering from that is that negative inner rules will create self-limiting belief. Self-limiting belief will sabotage your success, achievement, relationship, happiness. That is why some people go towards addiction. They're trying to avoid that emptiness. They're trying to avoid that unhappiness, that depression. They're trying to avoid running. They're trying to run away from themselves because they don't believe in themselves. Because that is an inner rule that was programmed in them, that became a self-limiting belief that created a self-sabotage. So I hope all of that made sense to you. And now let's move on to talking about PTSD versus C-PTSD. Now, this is an interesting one because, as I told you at the beginning, PTSD is in the medical group, but C-PTSD is not. It still has not made it into the medical group. Now, fibromyalgia took years and years before finally being acknowledged as an illness, and I'm assuming C-PTSD will be the same. Now, when people are subjected to the same trauma, I want to make sure I say that to everyone. You may have siblings in a family, or you may have a group of people. They all are being subjected to the same trauma. It doesn't mean they will all suffer from C-PTSD. Some of them will, some of them won't. And it really has to be, again, into your DNA and the resilience. And we're not going to go into all of that right now, maybe in the next Zoom session. So, what is PTSD? Well, PTSD is very simple. It usually involves an event, car accident, natural disaster, acts of violence, war. So think about 9/11 when you were there and the aftermath, the uncertainty. So PTSD is usually going to be from the result of an event. C-PTSD, on the other hand, is in another kind of trauma. By the way, C-PTSD is complex PTSD because people suffer from C-PTSD from having a long-term exposure to traumatic stress. They also suffer from it from ongoing stress or repeated traumatic events during a childhood. That is also called developmental trauma disorder, DTD. So people who have suffered from child abuse, again, I'm not making a blanket statement that 100% of those kids will suffer from C-PTSD, but child abuse, bullying, being bullied in school, being talked down by teachers or by a coach that is always going after you, could create a C-PTSD. And again, if it happens during childhood, even though you can still call it C-PTSD, is also called DTD. So let's talk about a couple of things. If you were neglected or abused as a child, your primary orientation, so you understand how C-PTSD can impact you as an adult. So if you were neglected or abused as a child, your primary orientation to the world could be one of threat, fear, and survival. Now, a little bit interesting, when I see so many people in fear right now, could it be that you were neglected as a child or abused? Remember, abused children, it can be emotional, physical, or sexual. All of that creates abuse. So your primary orientation will be towards the world. You will view the world as threat, fear, and you will only feel that you have to survive. A lot of people will say, I just survive every day, or I'm a survivor, it's always implying that it's always a struggle. You don't live, you survive. You survive a prior child abuse, but if you keep on identifying yourself as a survivor, you keep on telling yourself your identity is really always surviving in life. It's always struggling. Okay, one more thing happened to me again. If you childhood experience was with untrusted parents. Maybe they had mental illness. Maybe they lied to you a lot. Maybe they would, like for my childhood, they would say, I love you. And the next thing was a punch across your face. This is giving you the experience of not being able to trust the people who are raising you, your guardian, your parents, grandparents. So it could leave you with deep trust issue or confusion about relationship, since you don't really know what is a loving and trusting relationship. And that could be friends, work, boss, co-workers, or love relationship. It leaves you always having your guard up, because you never can trust 100%. Because if you couldn't even trust your parents, who could truly be trusted? I hope you understand what that means. So constant fears will force you, compel you to continuously scan your world, your environment for perceived threats. You are always on the guard for a possible threat that could happen to you or to the one you loved. You are in constant fear because you can never trust. Threats, by the way, that may not be real. Threats that you could control. If your self-belief is that you are stupid, everyone could be a competitor of yours. Then everyone could be a threat to your success. Because you don't want to take the risk to actually team up with somebody who may be better than you. So again, you will have your guards up. You may deal with situation in a very unhealthy coping mechanism. You could deal with stress by dissociation, by, I call it, going into your cave, by addiction, by self-protecting, self-medicating. So all of those things could be an unhealthy coping mechanism because you really never learned to be a problem solver and to cope with life. For one reason or another, you didn't learn it. So now, standing on your own two feet when dealing with stress or challenge or difficult situation is only pulling your unhealthy coping mechanism. For example, my sister, when she broke up from her wife, she just committed suicide. She had no healthy coping mechanism. So you really have to wonder. Also, a healthy coping mechanism doesn't have to be this drastic. It could be that you can't take risk. Because just in the event, well, a perceived threat happened. Since I don't trust the world, I don't trust my environment, I will never take a risk. Or I will take a risk when I know 100% that I will achieve it. Do you see that self-sabotage? Because at the end of the day, nobody can achieve the highest potential by not taking a risk. It's not possible. So you are sabotaging, limiting yourself to whatever you want to accomplish. Now, let's go on very quickly for one more thing. C-PTSD. Let's talk more about what could cause C-PTSD. And again, I'm not here to, do a diagnosis on you. That's up to you to figure out if that calls you or not, and then you understand how you should take care of it. So CPTSD can be the result of the following experiences, right? Childhood relationship to parents, caregivers that are frightening, and we talked about that. Parents or caregivers that are also unpredictable or overwhelming. A parent that all of their life is around the kid. So that leaves the kid with this overwhelming parent that is always there, that actually can cause CPTSD because they become afraid. Now, ongoing or repeated experience, and that can be as an adult also. You can develop CPTSD as an adult. So ongoing or repeated experience of neglect, physical, verbal, or sexual abuse. Now, that happens also with spouse, right? You marry somebody that maybe has anger issue, or maybe, well, abuse you, yell at you. It could be emotional abuse. It could be physical abuse. It could also be sexual abuse, believe it or not. You may also, CPTSD doesn't have to be that you were the one who got the abuse or the neglect. It could be that you were witness to a long-term, long range of domestic violence. For example, her child that witnessed one of the parents beating up the other parent. He may not have gotten beaten up, but he will suffer from growing up or being exposed to violence. Let me tell you something. For people who have CPTSD, seeing some of the video that's going on social media and the COVID is going to definitely trigger your CPTSD, because it's going to create and dig back out all of the fears and the feeling of not being in control. Also, you could also face a severe social stress. And we talked about bullying. You may have a disability. You could be exposed to traumatic violence in your community. For those kids who are raised, or adults, by the way, who are raised in a community with high drug, gang, shooting, and etc. Now, you could also be discriminated against. And again, this is not about what's happening in the media, because you're a woman, because you're a man, whatever, but maybe because you're poor, you have low income. So there's many reasons to be discriminated against, and you are feeling disempowered without your parent or your caregiver. So when that happens, then, and one day your parent or your caregiver will no longer be there. And if you don't learn to be a good problem solver so you can cope with a situation, it's going to be drastic at that point, because it's tough. So I wanted to, hopefully all of this, and again, we are getting close to the 7 p.m. So I'm going to turn back on my video soon, but I want to leaving with a couple of things. CPTSD is a learned stress disorder. And believe it or not, you have the ability to reprogram it. You don't have to live with it. You just have to know to reprogram it, and having the desire to tackle it on. It's not easy. However, in order to even start on the specific steps and methods in order to reprogram this damaging disorder, you must be willing to challenge your behaviors and become more consciously aware I have clients. I love them dearly. I love all of my clients. And if I challenge the behavior or the way of thinking, they will argue back, or they will make a lot of excuses, or they will say, okay, I got it. And the next time I see them, nothing changed. So if you truly want to tackle CPTSD, because it is restrictive, because it is a very damaging disorder, and you don't want it to keep on getting worse, then you have to challenge your way of thinking, your behavior, and bring it to a consciously aware status. So everything to me, and many of you heard me talking about that, everything is all about bringing your inner demons, your inner rules, your pain consciously. If you keep it unconsciously, you will never be able to change it, because then you just become a puppet. It will pull your strings and you won't even know why. So you will always be in a situation of reactive instead of manifesting. Manifesting is to determine or to go towards a better future. Reacting is surviving to everyday life.